Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to add action buttons to your app. Action buttons are these little things up here. For example, I have a search button which opens up a search activity, or in some cases it could open up a search bar up top. I also have an add friend button, and that will open up a spot where I can add a new contact since this is a contacts app. Also in the overflow menu I have about and settings. About just lets us know that this is an educational only app which you have full access to from GitHub, just so you know. Also, lastly, I have this back button which is in all of my sub activities. It is not in the first one because that's the main, and those only go back to the main activity or to wherever they're specified to go back. So basically with these icons, or they could be text if I don't have an icon, icons can be downloaded from anywhere or you can make them yourself. I'm using Google ones. When we're setting these up, we need to go to App, then down to Res or Resources, and go to Menu and change or open whichever one you want to use. In this case, I'll be using My Contacts. So you can see it's already open over here. And you need item tags for all your different items. So first, let's take a look at this. We have an item which is got the ID of action search, and it's using the icon IC search, which I have stored in my MIP map, as I believe that's how you say that. Here it is. And we have the title set to a string, which I have predefined in my strings file. As you can see, I have all my action bar strings over here. So getting back to this, we have the app show as action. This could also be Android. If Android doesn't work for you, use app. For me, app is working for right now. I have set this to always show. So that means that no matter what, hopefully, in theory, the search icon is always going to be there, no matter what. But if you go down to here, you'll notice it says show as action never. Well, that means it's going to always be in this three dot or whatever you want to call this menu here, and it'll have a drop down of settings and about, as it specifies here. I have settings and about. You could also have one called if room, which basically means if there is room here, then it'll add it, but if there isn't, it'll throw it down in this three dot menu. Note here that you do not need to have a icon, but it is optional. Otherwise it will display text, sort of like these. Now, using this file, it will add these icons or text to your action bar, but in order to get the functionality, you're going to need to go to your corresponding class of your activity layout in your menu. So mine is my contacts. Notice I've been using my contacts and my contacts, and basically we're pretty much going to need everything that comes with it. If you just create a new activity, keep everything there for now. We need the onCreate method at top, the one in the middle, the onCreate options. Basically it just does what this says here, inflates the menu. I know inflate sounds weird, but it adds the icons up in here. Then lastly, we have our on item selected. Mine does probably look a lot different than yours because this is what you need to edit. I have taken away a lot of the comments and added my own simpler comments. And I think there is a int ID line here somewhere. You can delete that. And I think there's something down here about action settings. You can also delete. You need the switch statement. Basically, a switch is kind of like if or else statement where it has cases. In each case will trigger something. So in this case, no pun intended, it has Android. I'm sorry, let's not look at this for now. Let's go down to these. These are the ones we have. Remember, we have search, add contact, about, and settings. So for our search, in this case, this could also be an if-else statement if you want to, but cases work much better. You set it to r.id.actionSearch. Remember in here we have r.id, we have id action search, and what we're going to do if that case is true is we're going to start activity and we're going to use this intent, and we're going to use a new intent which launches a search contacts. Whenever we click the search that we specified to have in the action bar here, it's going to run because we have it in this file, and it has return true. Don't worry about that. Same thing for all of them. They just use add contact or action about, something like that. Lastly, I showed earlier the back button. Please note you could also use a back button if your device has that. I'm assuming almost all Android devices do. But this caret or arrow just depending on your API version. In order to use that, which only works in API 16 and above, as far as I know, there could be another way to get around that, but as far as I know, that's how you got to do it. You're going to add this additional case up top, and it has case android.r.id.home. Notice I do not have anything about a home in any of these. Nothing about home. It's referring to something else. We're going to do nav utilities, I'm assuming that stands for, dot navigate up from the same task, this. So it's saying we're going to navigate up from this task to this. But my contacts is my main activity, so I do not actually need this part here because it's not going to return itself to itself. Doesn't make sense. But let's say here is the default screen, my contacts. If I were to go to add contacts, so I go to add contact, I will now need it because it will now have an option here to go back to my contacts. It doesn't always have to go back to the main, it could go back to something else. You can specify all that in your Android manifest. Basically, here you have your main activity. It's the one with the intent filters. And then you have all your other activities. To add this functionality with this back button, you're going to need the Android parent activity name as my contacts or main activity, whatever your main activity is, or whatever you want it to return to. And you're also going to need this metadata parent activity in my contacts in every single one of them. And that's how this whole thing's going to work. This is part 2 of this video series on the action bar. 3 and 4 are on the way, so subscribe and you'll be notified as soon as they're out.